Hello, I'm Viiperrr, and this is the ultimate introduction to Scratch. To start off, you should probably make an account. Just click this Join Scratch button. The process is pretty self-explanatory, so I won't go over it. Once you've made your account, click this Create button. Okay, we just made a project. This is the project editor, where you make everything on Scratch. It might be a bit intimidating when you see everything that pops up, but to be honest, most of the things that you see you won't be using half of the time. In Scratch, you code with what we call blocks. You put the blocks in an order that can create almost anything imaginable. There are many different sections of blocks, such as motion, looks, etc. Blocks are categorized into these sections, so it makes finding the blocks you need way easier. Now, if you look at the top left, you can see 3 tabs: Code, Costumes, and Sounds. Right now we are in the Code tab, so we don't need to go over it again. Click into the Costumes tab. Costumes are your character and the different states they have. For example, this cat has a standing and running costume. You can also pick a costume or draw one yourself. Next up is sound. Sound is, well, sound. You can choose a sound effect or record yourself to enhance your projects. Now that the main parts of the editor are explained, we can talk about this box over here. It says Sprite 1. In Scratch, sprites are elements that you can add to your projects. All sprites have a code section, costumes, and sound tab. Okay, one last thing. Over here, you can see a rectangle that says stage. This is the background of your project. Again, it has code, costumes, and sound. Now that the basics of Scratch has been covered, we can start creating. In this video, we will be making something like this. As you can see, the cat eats apples. But just like in real life, cannot eat soccer balls. Okay, let's start coding. Instead of untitled, name your project Apple Eater. If you remember, in the preview, our cat only had his head and it was tilted to the side. So go into the Costumes tab, select the cat's head, and drag it away from the rest of his body. Then select his body, delete it, and reselect his head, and using the cross, you can center it. What about making it rotate? This is also pretty simple. Hold down Shift, and hold this rotate on the bottom. Okay. Go back into the code section. If you remember, the cat followed our mouse. So, the way we can code this is by making our sprite go to our mouse pointer. This is in the motion section. So now, it's going to our mouse pointer, or at least how close it can get to our mouse pointer. So, how can we make it so that it always goes to our mouse pointer? Go to Control. Bring out a forever loop. So now the cat is forever going to our mouse pointer. So, if we want to run this script, click on it. Now, the cat is following our mouse. But if you remember, in the preview, the cat only went left and right. It didn't go up and down. We can fix this by getting rid of this go to mouse pointer block. Go back up to motion, bring out a set X block. Just like in math, X is left and right, and Y is up and down. The middle of the screen would be 0, 0. So a negative number would be left, and a positive number would be right. Okay, now go down to sensing, and bring out a mouse X block. So now, whatever X position or horizontal position our mouse is at, our cat will follow. So click the script again. As you can see, it's acting just like it was in the preview, except our cat is a bit too high. So let's set our Y to -135. I'm getting tired of clicking this script. There's actually a better way to do this. Go to Events, and bring out a when green flag clicked. Do you see this green flag? So whenever we click this, this script is gonna run. So click the green flag, and the project runs. And instead of clicking it again to stop it, we can click this stop sign. Okay, that's great. Now what about the apples? Go down here and hover over this cat and click on this magnifying glass to choose a sprite. Choose apple. This apple is a bit big, so let's set its size to 80. Much better. How about making it move? So from Events, bring out a when green flag click block. Then go to Control and bring out a forever loop. Now let's go up to Motion and bring out a change Y by block. Instead of 10, our value will be -10. So if you look at this, apple fell down. But if we try to restart the flag, nothing happens. It just stays on the bottom. Why is this? It's because the apple is on the bottom of the screen, and we never send it back up. So we can easily change this by bringing out a go-to block. Go to X, 0, and Y, 190. So now as you can see, the apple goes up and it goes down. But what about if we want the cat to eat the apple? Well, this is also pretty simple. Go to Control, bring out an if. Inside this, you can see a triangle, or whatever shape that is. And go to Sensing, and bring out a touching block. Instead of mouse pointer, choose Sprite 1. So this is another loop, just like forever. So every time the forever loop runs, we check if we're touching this cat. And if it's touching the cat, whatever is inside this loop executes. So let's say we wanted to put looks hide. So now let's try that out. Click the green flag, and now when it touches the cat, it disappears, just like the cat is eating the apple. Let's try that again. Wait, the apple isn't appearing anymore. Why is this? It's because we hid the apple, but we never showed it again. We can fix this by bringing out a show block and putting it right under the when green flag click block. Now click the green flag and test it. This is great. The apple continuously spawns. But it's kind of boring, as the apple always falls down at the same place. Why don't we change this? Go to Operators and bring out a pick random between 1 and 10 block. So when the green flag is clicked, instead of setting our x to 0, set the first value to negative 250, which is the left side of the screen, to 250, which is the right side of the screen. So now it's going to pick a random number between the left and right, and their apple will spawn there. So as you can see, it's continuously spawning in a random position. But there's only one apple, and it doesn't respawn. Let's fix the problem of it not respawning. So instead of hiding it when it touches sprite 1, what we can do is taking this go to pick random y block and putting it inside. So now, hit the green flag, it always respawns when you eat it. But this is kind of boring. There's only one apple, so it's not very fun. What if we made more apples? We could just make another apple sprite, but that wouldn't be very efficient. The best way to do this would be going into control and bringing out a create clone of myself block. So bring the apple until it's visible on screen and click the create clone of myself block. So after you click it, there's 2 apples. Let's click it again. There's 3 apples. So create a clone of myself basically just makes a clone. So each clone can have its own code. So this is a very efficient way of coding. Now, how do we implement this? What we can do is bring out a when I start as a clone block and put the contents of the forever loop inside the when I start as a clone. Then, in the forever loop, put the create a clone of myself block. Take out the go to x, y block and put it to this top of when I start as a clone. And instead of change y by -10, if it's touching the sprite, get rid of the if touching sprite, or only the if loop, Bring out a repeat until loop, bring out a touching sprite 1, and bring out the change y by -10. So now, hit the green flag, and you can see apples just raining down on us. Well, why aren't the apples disappearing anymore? It's because we don't have a script to hide them. So, if you look at the repeat until loop, there's nothing on the end. So if we add something to the end of the repeat loop, basically what happens is when the condition is fulfilled, like if it's touching sprite 1, then whatever happens on the bottom gets executed. If that makes sense. So bring out a delete this clone block. Hit the green flag. Now all the apples that are being touched by the player get deleted. That's awesome. But there's still a lot of apples, so bring out a wait 1 second block. Instead of 1 second, 0.3 seconds. Now hit the green flag, and apples are raining down. And it's at a good speed. Or maybe it's a bit too slow. How about 0.2? That's nice. Okay. What about this apple that we see at the top of the screen? What is that? That's the original apple. Since it has no code, all it's doing is creating clones. So we should hide that original apple. So take out the show block and replace it with a hide block in the looks category. Then put a show under the when I start as a clone. Now, as you can see, there's no excess apple. But I can't help but notice that some apples are just staying on the floor. We need to delete those. So what we can do is go to control, bring out an if then. So if go to operators, bring out an equal. For the second value, write -190. Go up to motion, bring out a y position block. So if our y position equals -190, which is the bottom of the screen, delete this clone. So now, as you can see, every time it touches the floor, apples disappear. That's great. But this game is kind of pointless if you think about it, because there's no score, so we can't keep track of how many apples we have eaten. First thing we need to do is make a variable. A variable is a value that has a name attached to it. So let's say my variable, for example, this checkbox. So my variable equals 0. So we can set my variable to maybe 100. Or we can set it to apple eater. Or we could set it to subscribe. So we can set my variable to anything we want. Instead of my variable, let's make a different name. Let's name it score. So when the green flag is clicked, let's set the score to 0. But whenever we're touching sprite 1, before deleting the clone, change the score by 1. So this makes it that every time the cat eats an apple or touches an apple, the score increases. So hit the green flag. Now the score increases every single time we eat an apple. This is great, but the score looks kind of ugly. So what we can do is we can double click the score and try to drag it towards the middle, as close to the middle as you can. That's good for me. So now you can see the score is in the middle and it looks pretty nice. What about adding sound effects? You can do this really easily by going into sound and bringing out start sound chomp and put it right before the change score by 1. So now hit the green flag and eat some apples. How about we make the cat's mouth open every single time it eats an apple? Go into the sprite 1 and click on costume. Get rid of costume 2 and duplicate sprite 1 or costume 1 by right clicking and duplicate. Select the cat and then click this ungroup button. Now, click on this reshape button over here. Click over here towards his chin. Make sure you don't click on the white part. Click on his head, and then select over here to drag out his face. You can also do the same thing for the white part of his skin or fur. Okay, now take his mouth and open it. Now he's really hungry. So select his head and using the cross, center it in the middle. Okay. You need to have a way to change between these two costumes. So what we can do is bring out an if loop. If sensing, touching, apple, we can switch our costume to costume 2. So now, whenever he's touching an apple, he switches to costume 2. But he's always on costume 2 because we never switch it back to costume 1. So go to control, and instead of if, bring out an if else. So if he's not touching the apple, switch costume to costume 1. So costume 2 in the first slot, and costume 1 in the second slot. So now you can see his mouth is moving, but it's very quick. How about we change this? Wait 0.2 seconds. Now let's try it. But now you can see that the cat is kind of glitching. But that's because we're waiting for 2 seconds in the same loop in which where he is setting the X to mouse X. So the simple solution is just to make another forever loop. So put a forever loop over everything, go to events, and bring out another when green flag click block. Much better. Now, we need to add the soccer ball. That makes the cat sick, I guess. So, choose a sprite. This time, go to the search bar and look up soccer. So for the soccer ball, we can take the apple's code. So what we do is we take this first script, the when green flag click script, and drag it until the soccer ball is shaking. And do the same for when I start as a clone. So now, as you can see, we have these 2 scripts in the soccer ball. But this time, get rid of the score blocks, the variable blocks, and also the chomp. Okay, but you can see that we have the same problem as before, but with the soccer balls. Why is this? It's because the soccer balls have a different size than the apples. So what we can do, so instead of -190, -187. And now, if you look, soccer balls disappear. Now let's add the mechanism that kills if he eats a soccer ball. So that's very easy. Instead of this delete this clone, bring out and control a stop all block. This stops the entire program. So let's just have fun and then eat a soccer ball. And the game stops. There seems to be a lot of soccer balls, so instead of 0.2 seconds, 0.6. Now if you look, it's perfect. While testing this game, I noticed that sometimes a soccer ball appears behind an apple, so when you try to eat the apple, you die. We should fix this bug. So bring out an if-then loop, and sensing, touching, apple, then delete this clone. So if it's touching the apple, it'll delete itself. Now, this game is working pretty good. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as it helps me make these videos. Goodbye. Or something. I don't know. Have a good day.